Matchmaker Monday is back this week. It's going to be a bit of a special one because I'm going to be talking about a few more fights. Usually it's three, but I'm going to be extending this one out because if I stack the card was at the weekend. Let's not waste any time. First matchup, Hamzat Chimaev versus the winner Baraujo versus Imavov in France. Listen, it's quite tricky to pick Hamzat Chimaev's next opponent. I think the trickiest part about picking Hamzat Chimaev's next opponent for me is actually giving him someone that's going to give him some sort of a test. I don't think you put Dricus du Plessis back in there in an immediate rematch at all. I don't think that's the case at all. Like, if it was kind of someone else, you might argue, oh, he could have, defended the belt and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there is that argument, but the fact he just got destroyed, there's really no argument, in my opinion. I don't see anybody calling for it either. So Dricus is out. Sean Strickland has been backing as always, but he's never going to do fucking shit. So he's not out. No, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. I got this for this. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. But and Paulo Costa as well. Let me tell you. So Sean Strickland in it, even though he is probably the one that will sell the most against Hamzat Chimaev. Anthony Hernandez doesn't deserve it either. I think there's a few different ways. Okay, so I would love to see Anthony Hernandez maybe take on a Rainer the Ritter before I see him against a Hamzat Chimaev to really test him in the grappling. Dricus du Plessis could be fighting Reindeer. Could be fighting Reindeer next. I'm just going to call him Reindeer because it's easier. He could be fighting Reindeer next. So Hamzat Chimaev versus Baraujo versus Imavov winner is probably next. I picked Baraujo to win that fight when I originally made a video on it. I might lean towards Nasruddin Imavov in that fight because I think Imavov's good, but I think Baraujo's good as well. That's a great fight. And I'm really looking forward to that. That's the true number one contender. That's the kind of scrap I love for like a Baraujo. You know, he probably couldn't have sat out and waited. Imavov could have sat out and waited. Baraujo going over in France trying to take that number one contender fight. That's what I love. I love when fighters do that, and that's going to be a great fucking fight. You know, we got Mauricio Rufy versus BSD on that card as well. That's going to be a good one, man. We got the China card this week as well. Ortega Sterling's carrying the whole thing, but it's still a good one. Johnny Walker's going to get slept, but still, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Hamzat Chimaev. Nasruddin Imavov is nowhere near the level of Hamzat, and he's definitely not going to be at Hamzat Chimaev. Baraujo, bit more of an interesting grappling approach. I don't think Dricus was overall. See, Dricus fought mainly strikers on his way up to the belt, okay, and when he had the belt. He fought Robert Whittaker, who's kind of mainly a striker with good grappling, and Whittaker was able to get him down. He fought Israel Adesanya, who was just a natural striker. He fought Sean Strickland. He fought Darren Till. These were all kind of strikers. The first grappler he fought was Derek Brunson, and Derek Brunson had good success with the grappling. So, I'd probably pick De Ritter to beat him, Dricus, if I'm being honest. And I feel like there's a few different ways I can see, De Ritter winning that. He's probably a little bit slicker in the jiu-jitsu aspect of it. Dricus definitely is probably a little bit more funky on the feet, so he could land some shots there. I'm not saying he's good on the feet. I'm going to say funky because they're both kind of just like drunk lads fighting in a pub. So that's kind of one way I could see that kind of whole thing going. De Ritter versus Dricus is a possible matchup. But for Hamzat versus Baraujo and Imavov, I just think they both go the same way. Hamzat just mantles them. I don't think either of them. I don't see anybody taking a round off him. Am I the only one that thinks that? Who's going to stop his grappling? Middleweight's notorious for having shit wrestlers. Marvin Vettori was considered one of the best wrestlers and got to a title shot. Okay, so middleweight's had no good wrestlers. It's been a striking heavy division. Whittaker, Adesanya, Anderson Silva, Luke Rockhold, Michael Bisping. These are all strikers. Sean Strickland's a striker. Another champion. They're notorious for strikers. And Chris Weidman came along and actually implemented a bit of grappling and looked good. He beat Anderson Silva. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I just think middleweight's so dead. I think middleweight's dead. I look at the whole division and I'm just like, I don't think any of you take a round of Hamzat. I don't think they take a round, bro. I think if you're going to fight Hamzat, you need to have a good grappling base. You need to be able to give Hamzat something on the ground to think about. I feel like you need to be able to work something off your back. I think you need to be able to throw elbows. I think you need to have a submission threat if you're going to beat Hamzat Chimaev. A real submission threat. And who in middleweight are you looking at thinking, apart from De Ritter, is going to go in there and actually give him a threat? No one. Baraujo, maybe. No, no. Imavov, no. Imavov gets fucking smoked in the fucking. That's even worse than the Drickus fight. Even worse, bro. That could be a straight 10-8 every round. That honestly could be a 10-8 every round if he doesn't finish him. Because Nasirin Imavov has shit grappling. He's a top heavy opponent fighter with fucking striking. He's a striking heavy fighter, and he's not gonna implement grappling to be Hamzat Chimaev. He's not. Middleweight's just dead because Hamzat's so much better than all of them. And listen, Anthony Hernandez is good. Anthony Hernandez is great, but Anthony Hernandez is not beating him. And I saw Lucas Tracy talk about he wants to see that fight next. I kind of feel like you have to give the winner Baraujo versus Imavov next, even if you think Hernandez has a better chance. I don't really like going down the rankings to fight some. You know what I mean? I feel like the person who actually deserves it should be fighting next. And especially if it's Imavov, Baraujo and Adesanya, your last two, Adesanya KO. That's insane. That's insane, and he will deserve it. And I look forward to it. It'll be a good scrap. Hopefully, that's in like January or something like that. Hamza's talked about wanting to fight on the October card. That's not really going to happen realistically, so we need to look elsewhere. But yeah, middleweight's dead. Middleweight's absolutely dead. Next up, co-main event: Lerone Murphy. I think Lerone Murphy versus Volk is going to happen, and I think he's going to fall very short against Volkanovski. I have to say, I think Volkanovski is a very good stylistic matchup to beat Lerone Murphy. I think Lerone Murphy obviously presents his own challenges. I think Lerone Murphy's very good. Bit too good at just being basic, though. I always kind of thought Lerone Murphy's a decision fighter. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I always thought Lerone Murphy just did the basics very well, but he never had this thing or this attribute or this style or striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu specialty to where I thought he could become a champion. Um, Listen, if we, I could say it again, and I will fucking say it again. Actually, you just don't bet on Bellator fighters. Aaron Pico, anytime he fought someone good, got fucking KO'd clean. Just look at his whole career. I'm not even going to get into it. Real G's know. Betting on Aaron Pico was not a lock, and I thought Lerone Murphy was a lock. I thought obviously Aaron Pico could have won, and Aaron Pico looked good in the first round, but you just don't do that, bro. Especially against an undefeated prospect like Lerone Murphy. Come on, let's have some manners here, okay? But watching Lerone years, he's good, man. He's good. I would love to see him against like an Arnold Allen before I see him against a Volk or a Yair or an Aljamain Sterling. That would be a great fucking fight. That would be a sick fight. Okay, I'm not mad at Lerone Murphy fighting Volk. I'm not mad at Lerone Murphy fighting Volk at all. If I'm being completely honest with you, it's better than Yair Rodriguez fighting Volk too. Let me tell you that much. It's a fresh matchup. He's from England, so it's going to bring some sort of an audience there because the English fans kind of follow their own. Um, so it kind of makes sense. It makes a bit of sense. Volk's not really got a number. I suppose Movsar Evloev actually. God knows what's happening to him. He pulled out of his last fight. So do you reward him with a title shot? I wouldn't say so. I think you need to fight again. You fucking the winner of Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling, especially if it's Brian Ortega, is looking quite tasty. Yair Rodriguez, I'm sure would love to fight Movsar Evloev. Not. He's willing to fight anyone, that guy. Okay. But as regards the actual stylistic fight of Lerone versus Volk, I think Volk is just too good. I genuinely think Volk's just way too good. I think Volk would just style on him. I think Volk would very, very efficiently be in the pocket. I think Lerone Murphy's good though. But that's the thing, Lerone Murphy is good. So but I think Volk would use range as well quite well. I think he'd pick his moments getting in the pocket. Volk's not getting hit with a spinning elbow, let me tell you that much. Lerone Murphy's got good range. I don't think he'd be able to use the grappling against Volkanovski. I think Lerone definitely would have moments in that fight. I think Lerone would definitely land because Volkanovski's not defensively all that sound, if we're being honest. Lerone's quick. Lerone's fast. He's got good hands. He's got very good just kind of basics. But I think if you're going to be Volkanovski, you need a little bit more than that. Maybe it's a KO power, maybe it's a grappling specialty, like in Islam Makachev, or that KO like Diego Lopez had, or that KO that Ilya had, something like that. And I just don't think Lerone Murphy has that. I just don't think so. But then again, he could style on Volk in the boxing because he arguably is a bit. I think Lerone Murphy's probably just a better straight boxer than Alexander Volkanovski, which I don't think is an outrageous take to say. You know, Lerone Murphy's got good hands. You know, the Emmett fight and the Edson Barbosa fight, he looked good. He doesn't really have a finishing ability, which is quite worrying. If you're going to be moving up the rankings, you know, he can't really finish an Edson Barbosa. Josh Emmett, you know, Ilya Topuria couldn't finish that guy, okay? So he is tough. He's very hard to finish, okay? So I wouldn't be too mad at him for not finishing Josh Emmett. Granite chin Josh Emmett. Okay, Stonehead Josh Emmett. It's not that bad to not finish him. But, you know, an Edson Barbosa, people like that, these guys should be getting swept away clean if you're going to be, you know, climbing the top of the rankings. And Allen would be an extremely interesting fight. I've matchmaked them on this series before. Yair Rodriguez would be a banger fight. Banger. It's good to see Lerone Murphy at the top, okay? But people need to just not get too carried away here. And just remember that he beat Aaron Pico, who had no win in the UFC. He hasn't got a win in the UFC. And anytime he's fought someone decent, he's got flatline fucking KO'd, okay? So people need to, you know, calm down a little bit. Incredible KO by Lerone Murphy. One of the best KOs I've ever seen. It fucking zapped me with energy. Zapped me, bro, okay? So I'm not taking away anything from Lerone Murphy, but people saying he could beat, you know, Movzar or Ilya or something like that, you know, just relax a little bit, okay? Just relax. You know, we need to see this guy against the top bench on the division first. You know, the winner of Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega at the weekend could be next for Lerone Murphy as well. Volkanovski tweeted saying, I'll see you in December. We're going to see both them in December. Okay? Next. Fucking hell, mate. Fucking hell. Next up, Joaquin Buckley versus Carlos Prates. Oh baby, how saucy, how much flavor would be in that pan if these two were fighting? How much sauce would be in that shit, okay? Prates hit him with a filthy, filthy fucking spinning elbow, mate. Spinning elbow, the Indian fist. And, Jeff Neal actually, I wouldn't say he would look good because he didn't. Prates definitely was in control of the fight. And Prates just kind of like, I feel like Carlos Prates, how do you describe it? You know, he ran away from Jeff Neal in the first round, like a little shimmy, which I thought was quite funny, but he seems to throw shots just so effortlessly. Am I the only one that thinks that? The range, maybe it's just the lanky kind of range Prates has, but he seems to throw shots as if he's like throwing them 50%, but he's throwing them 100%. Do you know what I mean? It just looks like he's like, I don't really give a shit if these land. Am I the only one that thinks that? Am I the only one that's actually noticed that? When he throws a shot, he kind of just throws it, and it's almost just like, if it lands, it lands. But probably when he's throwing it, he's like, I'm taking your fucking head off. Do you know what I mean? But I just thought, I definitely noticed it in this fight. He just effortlessly throws it. He kind of glides around. That's kind of Carlos Prates' movement. It's him just gliding around the cage. Um, he made extremely good work of the opponent that was in front of him. I think that's the best way to describe a Jeff Neal. He should be, I wouldn't even say he should be doing that to Jeff Neal. That's wrong. He should be finishing Jeff Neal if he wants to climb the rankings. Spinning elbowing him is crazy. Spinning elbowing him is crazy, especially with Lerone Murphy getting a crazy, fucking crazy spinning elbow directly after that. Like that was insane. This card was fucking stacked, man. This card was absolutely stacked. Prates versus Buckley. Obviously, Buckley just lost to Usman in a fucking terrible fashion. Absolutely terrible fashion. I would love to see this fight. I would love to see this fight. I would probably lean towards Carlos Prates. I feel like the range he strikes would get Buckley. I feel like he'd be able to just keep him at range, and whenever he kind of jabbed forward and then got in with his strikes, I don't think Buckley would definitely has good movement, so he might be able to get out. But I feel like eventually Carlos Prates would just start landing on Joaquin Buckley, and I feel like he would be able to put him away. I think I picked Prates via first round TKO as well, which is a pretty damn good prediction if you ask me. You listen to me, you'll make money, kids. Just don't listen to me when it's strict stupidity. But yeah, I feel like Prates will definitely be able to find shots. Buckley just let me down so bad against Kamaru Usman. I didn't even talk about Kamaru Usman, but Kamaru Usman could easily just go back up to middleweight, and that would be so fine. That would be so fine because he's clearly better than all the middleweights, in my opinion. I don't know why he's going down and having to cut all that weight and fighting a division that you just don't really need to fight in anymore. You've ruled that division. especially after the Hamza fight of the weekend. I think, Usman should be going right back up there, but I'll make a video about that during the week, actually. I feel like Pratez's range would be a bit too much for Buckley. I feel like he'd be able to find the shots. In the Ian Gary fight, he kind of just started to turn it on the second. Joaquin Buckley was on from the start against Colby Covington. He landed some vicious shit, but if Colby's kind of like, doesn't really have great head movement. He kind of throws with 50-60% kind of keep you in your face, but when you get in Colby's face, he doesn't really have any great movement to get away from you. He doesn't have a zigzag to get out against the cage. He just kind of relies on grappling as well, but Colby Covington's grappling is very outdated, very very outdated nowadays. Um, People are just, the Hamzats of the world are just absolutely leapfrogging the Colby Covington wrestling. And Leon Edwards just shut it down as well. Leon Edwards is up there. When he called Leon Edwards out for Brazil, but I know he called Michael Venom Page out as well. MVP seemed very, very interested in that. I think Buckley makes sense for Prates. I would love to see the Buckley fight. I like Buckley. I like Prates. I just want to see this guy stop smoking. I just want to see him stop smoking, bro. I want to see you win. I want to see you do damage, and I want to see you win fights in extremely impressive fashion. Now, a lot of people say, "Well, don't, bro. If it's not broke, don't fix it, bro." He lost to Ian Gary. First 2 rounds, he didn't really land a shot, a significant strike, and he had him in the fifth like a down Fortnite character. So the potential is there. The potential is 100% there for Carlos Prates to be a UFC champion. Not a UFC champion, actually, but just to be a top contender in the UFC division. He could have easily beaten Ian Gary. I felt he could have beaten Ian Gary. You probably feel like he could have beaten Ian Gary. He wouldn't beat like a Shavkat. He probably definitely wouldn't beat a Jack Della Maddalena. He could struggle against Bilal with the grappling. Don't think he would beat an Usman. I think he would beat a Buckley. That's kind of what I think. Next up, Michael Venom Page versus Michael Morales, sorry. Bit of a fucking from the 3 point line. This one, I feel like this would be a fucking sick scrap. Am I the only one that thinks that? I think this would be insane, and I feel Michael Morales is kind of like high ranked enough to where MVP will actually accept. I feel like MVP moving down, he's not going to really fight down the lower rankings. He's not really going to want to fight Neil Magny or someone like that. Do you know what I mean? The kind of lower echelon to the division. I feel like he's just kind of earned it as well. You beat Sharon Magomedov, beat Jared Cannonier, knocking Jared Cannonier down twice. Even though that's not in your division, that has to mean something. That has to mean something because he's not really going to stick around at middleweight, which is fair. And I would like to see him move down, but I would also like to see him move up. I wouldn't like to see him become a Kevin Holland to where he's just moving up and down. I don't think that would be good. I'd rather see MVP kind of just stay in one ship with the occasional, dipping across the other ocean. Don't fucking back and forth every fight. That kind of mess up your weight cutting as well. Kind of, you know, I feel like that could mess up your preparation as well to where like you're kind of used to 185 once, then you're used to 170, and you come back down to 170, you're a little bit more depleted, you're not eating as much food, the training sessions aren't as good, and then doubts kind of creep in of, oh, the camps were better before, and that kind of shit. But I feel like MVP would win that fight. I just think Michael Venom Page in a striking fight is not losing to any man on this planet. Michael Morales, I have been watching since the Contender Series, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I don't know which one. About 5 years ago. Oh no, 2025. About 4 years ago. 3.5, 4 years ago, whatever it was. I've been watching him since then. This dude is a fucking beast, bro. This dude is an absolute fucking beast. He went to like a decision with Jake Matthews, then he chin Neil Magny, then he chin Gilbert Burns. So he's on a good momentum here. That's like a nice 3 fight streak. Jake Matthews isn't old and isn't chinny, so that wasn't really like a negative that he didn't finish him. Gilbert Burns is old, Neil Magny is old. I was considering booking MVP versus Burns, but then I just thought, nah, like that would be demolishment. That wouldn't even be fair. Like MVP would absolutely destroy Gilbert Burns. And this is a good one. This is a fucking good one, because Michael Morales is quite a similar build. He's kind of tall, lanky, rangy kind of fighter. And I think he would give MVP some sort of problems in the grappling, of course. Would he give him problems in the striking? I feel like welterweights are a lot more skillful than middleweights. I think we can all agree on that. Hamza Shemaev is living proof of that. Fucking hell, sorry. And I feel like MVP would just school probably most of the middleweights because most of them are strikers. You know, he could bag his way up to like a Sean Strickland. I wouldn't. Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of that as well. I don't know. Like Sean Strickland's a bit far away, but Robert Whittaker as well. That's up there for MVP at middleweight. You could see him slot in against the Sean Strickland, and he'd be the number 2 ranked middleweight in the world. Then that would be insane. But he wants to stay at welterweight. I feel like the reason he wants to stay at welterweight is because Leon Edwards is there, and he wants that kind of like Britain versus Britain, England versus England title shot in like a Wembley Stadium or a Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I feel like that's his big goal. But Leon needs to win, man. Leon needs to win. Now let's not forget 4 months ago Leon Edwards was the number one ranked fighter in the world at welterweight up until Sean Brady came in there and just absolutely schooled him. But the whole thing about MVP, I feel like he just kind of wants the Leon Edwards fight. That's his thing. He wants to fight Leon. He doesn't really care about anyone else, which is fair. I mean, it's fair enough. But I would love to see MVP stay at middleweight and do a bit more damage. I would love to see that. I feel like he could beat a lot of these guys. Now, of course, Hamzat would be a body. It would be demolishment. It would be quick, easy. MVP might be actually one of the people that has like the 1% chance because he might land like a flying knee on Hamzat. But that's it. That's it, bro. You know? He probably would beat like a Robert Whittaker. I'd pick him to beat a Sean Strickland. You know, Strickland probably would wrestle, but I don't think Strickland's that physical. And I don't think he's great striking at all. Like, he's got a jab and a teep kick, okay? MVP's going to school him on the feet. Absolutely school him on the feet. Strickland will implement grappling, but Jared Cannonier did, and Jared Cannonier's stronger. And I was very surprised by how big Michael Venom Page was in there. He's fucking huge. He's fucking huge, bro. I don't know why he wants to go back down to welterweight. I really don't. But to the original fight, Morales versus MVP, I would love to see this. We could end up seeing, you know, Carlos Prates versus MVP. I'll talk a bit about that because that's kind of what they said at the press conference that they both be down. MVP. MVP would find it. Now, Carlos Prates does have kind of lanky, kind of long limbs to where he might be able to land on MVP and find those shots and find moments on the feet to where other fighters wouldn't. But I still wouldn't bet on Carlos Prates to win. Just would not bet on him. Don't think he would have the stand up. Don't think he would have the grappling, which is the most important thing to beat MVP if you're any fighter. And I pick Michael Venom Page against all these guys. Like I really, really fucking do. And that's Matchmaker Monday for me this week, boys. You got an extra one at the end there, but like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.